Man found guilty of murdering schoolgirl Michelle Bright. This story comes from the Sydney Morning Herald, 30th of June 2023. More than 2 decades after schoolgirl Michelle Bright was murdered on her way home from a party, her loved ones packed into a courtroom on Friday to see if they would finally get justice. They heard the welcome word guilty. Michelle, 17, vanished from Gulgong in central western New South Wales while walking home from a friend's birthday in the early hours of February 27, 1999. Wow, that was a long time ago. 3 days later, her partially clothed body was found in long grass. Oh, it's horrible. For years, police were unable to determine who killed her. An attack on another young woman who was choked in an attempted sexual assault in Gulong. Why do we have weird names for all these places? Gulgong, about a year before Michelle's murder, also went unsolved. Craig Henry Rumsey, 56, who lived nearby at the time the girls were attacked, was arrested in 2020, and his trial started in April this year at the New South Wales Supreme Court in Dubbo. Ramsey admitted to both crimes while speaking to undercover police, prosecutors said, but his lawyers argued the confession was simply not true and were made only because their gullible and vulnerable client had been pressured and manipulated. Okay, I wonder how he was pressured and manipulated. I'm saying it doesn't happen. On Friday, a jury found Ramsey guilty of both offences after lengthy deliberations. When the verdict was delivered for Michelle's murder, supporters in the court gasped and applauded. There was no DNA evidence linking Ramsey or anyone else to Michelle's death, but his wallet and shoes were found close to where the second young woman was attacked. Okay, so there was no DNA evidence, because back then I don't think they really focused on DNA evidence because it wasn't such a big thing back then. But there were items that he owned, like a wallet and shoes. You don't just randomly leave your wallet and shoes somewhere. That seems very sus. Michelle, a year 11 student who was well known in a small community, had been dropped at a pub in central Gulgong after the party and started the 3-kilometre walk home along Barney's Reef Road. She made it about halfway there. When her body was found 3 days later, her shirt was pushed up, her jeans and underwear were pulled down, and a broken necklace and button ripped from her clothing were found nearby. Ramsey described some of the details of Michelle's body to police during his confession in August 2020, including the type of underwear she was wearing and the fact he had broken her bra. Okay, so they're details of the crime that you just can't mistakenly, coincidentally state or say or make up. This guy definitely comes across as guilty. So although there was no DNA evidence, the property of his was found, and he has stated details of the crime that were true. So I'm guessing they probably weren't mentioned to the public or the media. I mean, they don't mention the color of underwear and the fact that someone that's been murdered has a broken bra to the media or the public. That's just part of the crime scene. So there's no reason to mention that sort of stuff. Back to the story. He said he could have been walking down the dark rural road that night and heard footsteps behind him, causing him to attack the person and knocking them out. Okay, this is something that's more suspicious. So on the same night that this person was murdered, you may have been walking down that same road and you were approached by someone and you had knocked them out. Okay, that just sounds sus. If you add up all the other evidence, it's definitely pointing to him. Ramsey said he covered Michelle's mouth with his hands and kept them there for about 10 minutes until she stopped breathing. He then pulled her across the road into the grass so no one could find her body. Asked if Michelle screamed, Ramsey responded, no, that was the 18-year-old. Okay, referring to the previous attack. He said he waited outside the 18-year-old's unit in January 1998 because he saw her go inside and thought she was a good sort and he wanted to F her. Wow. Ramsey said he tackled the young woman but didn't have time to have a feel because people ran out of the house yelling. Jesus Christ. What a horrible, disgusting person. After the guilty verdicts were handed down, Ramsey's criminal history was handed to Acting Justice Robert Allen Hume. Hume noted that the document was reasonably long and relatively contained in an indecent assault in May 2013 and an episode of sexual touching in 2019. He said he'd like to have further information about these incidents. The case will return to court on July 5 to set the sentencing dates. Lock him up and throw away the key. What a horrible, disgusting man.